it. This is all we've been waiting for. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Yep, that's me. I bet you're wondering how me and Turret Daughter got into this position, huh? Well, it's a long story. Okay, not really. Medium length. Yeah, mid. It's mid. But the results... well... that's something else entirely. Welcome to the story of how I found the greatest torbjorn turret spot in the history of Overwatch. This story takes place back in the good old year of 2018. You see, at this point in time, my friends and I, the group we call the Ruberians, were trying to take the game more seriously than we had been and see just how far we could take ourselves. The answer wasn't very far, but we had fun though. We were inspired by the then recent Overwatch League and what it could mean for players. And as such, we decided to play our own hand and do the best we could to try to rank up. And while we never really did rank all that high, nor were we able to consistently get a full stack of our team on, we still enjoyed our time together. And to this day, most of us still play together when we can. Before we get too far, just want to let you know this is going to be a, well, like I said, kind of a medium length thing. Probably about half an hour. If you don't want to hear me squawking about how I felt about certain things, about Torbjorn, the game, the character, etc., I'll be leaving a timestamp to where we actually get to showing the spot itself. And I tell you how it was set up, why it's so good, etc. And I plan to actually release the majority of the full video around the same time I post this video. Basically, it was almost a decade ago. And, wow. I'm getting old. But it's something I've been wanting to tell for a while. Now I know what you're thinking. Shut the fuck up, you fucking pleb! Why the hell am I watching this stupid-ass video? Oh my god! Uninstall! You're so bad and dumb! Well... I mean... that's valid. But it's a story I want to tell, so... For some additional context, I am a Torb main. Not just any Torb main, but the Torb main. You see, when I first started playing Overwatch, it didn't take long before I found myself enraptured by the subtle charms and strategic wonder that is Torbjorn. Later, I discovered that I am the avatar of the one true and only valid Torbjorn player that ever has been and ever can be. The K-Man. And all other players who pick Torb are false prophets trying to lead the world to its inevitable ruin. I like playing Torb. A lot.
I love the chosen one.
Loving him is lots of fun.
We love the chosen one.
Not as much as me.
I love him with my heart.
I love him with my body parts.
We love the chosen one.
Everybody shush. There, it is decided I love the chosen one most.
A byproduct of this is that I'm just a wee bit overprotective of playing Torb. If I see anybody else has any hours on the character, yeah, I click that little avoid his teammate button. Lovely feature.
Is he getting avoided his teammate?
As well, something else my team and I started doing over the years was referring to Turret as daughter, true daughter. Unlike that false daughter brig, my team and I really squeezed about every ounce of what we could out of the character, with a lot of different kinds of strategies. For further context, for those of you that have only played Torb post his rework around that time in 2018, things were a little bit different. Back in the day, you couldn't throw a turret, no. You had to place it. Knowing which spots were forbidden through a crimson-red ghost outline of the turret, and what was allowed with a blue outline. And what's more, after you placed it, you needed to hit it with your hammer to upgrade it. Nowadays, turret construction is completely different. Now, you throw a turret down, and it will upgrade itself to what would be level 2 back in the day. And once it's done upgrading itself, it gets on its merry way to annihilate its foes. Except when you throw it in a spot that looks like it would land, only for it to slip off like it was landing in a puddle of slicked Vaseline.
Show them what you've got.
Oh my god, Vaseline. Fucking Vaseline.
New improved Vaseline Intensive Care Lotion. Now with even more healing ingredients.
Vaseline!
Why does everything I love run away from me?
Frustrating stuff. Though, thankfully, the addition of the Anchor Bolts perk has made this far less of an issue, if at all. It was a different age, one beautiful in its sophistication, and coupled with the beauty of my turret daughter was her mother, Orisa.
She's gone out of my life. She was once the tank that I'd count on to make my weird flanks. I miss your old shield. We once were such a team. You and me, we'd place a bunker and slay all our enemies. Before you're lobotomized. Orisa, you would save me from all the shots that shoot. Orisa, we would slay them with turret and your shield. Orisa, Orisa, Orisa.
Orisa was instrumental to a lot of her strategies back in the day. Back when she had access to a longer-lasting, stronger shield, and her more defensive, team-oriented abilities, plus the fact that she wasn't the only tank. Very often, we would find ways to flank, including sneaking past enemies to high ground and bunkering. When they got too close, I'd ult, bring turret to level 3, and watch the mayhem. It was beautiful. These days, Orisa isn't quite as much a part of our normal playbook. Not in the same way anyway. As a character fundamentally, she's just changed too much. We still try to use her for specific situations, but definitely not like how we used to. Honestly, in a lot of ways, it kind of feels like it's a lobotomy. She's just not the same. She's great for what she does well, and a lot of people really like her. That said, my tank buddy and I really do miss old Orisa. The new variant?
What the fuck is this?
But back then, our love was strong and our flanks were many, including most potently on King's Row, which obviously we call Rubiria Row. Although through some perks she can get her shield back now, it really isn't the same. It was just a lot more potent back then, where her shields were longer and level 3s were plentiful. Especially when we can use our other tank to stay with the team so we can have a strong pincer formation. Indeed. Back then especially, we searched high and low, well, mostly high, for any potential powerful spot. Volskaya, Hanamura, Rubiria Row, Watchpoint Gibraltar, and then, finally, Blizzard World. You may have noticed that in several of the clips of me going around to place down turret, that it would jump around a lot depending on where it was about to be placed. There were several pros and cons to this. The greatest pro was that you could set up neat off angles in spots that would have better line of sight than just a vanilla flat spot, I mean. By doing so, you could put turret in a spot that would have natural cover, etc., like this spot over in Hollywood, which you can still use today. The trade-off often being that even with the angle, it still wouldn't have great coverage or really have any line of sight compared to a standard spot. Again, this was supplemented by our dedication to our bunker tactics. I lived for finding little niche spots that I could use, and while I still do today, it isn't quite the same. One of the strategies that I very frequently used to employ to find spots was pushing the character to points where I normally wouldn't be able to reach, seeing if I could set a turret in place, even if it needed specific movement or planning to do so. It opened up significantly more powerful positions and options, and was a staple of my turret mindset. Now, I'm not saying that I'm better than anyone. That would be the K-Man, who again, totally isn't my obsessive Torb alter ego. That's the greatest Torb that ever has been, ever shall be, and all others are false prophets of evil and asininity!
What the hell was that?
I learned a lot of this kind of map manipulation, playing games like Carnivores back in the day, a dinosaur hunting game where I learned to jump up mountains by spamming jump and running into the walls. If I get it to work on the remake, or whatever it is, I think it's a remake that they put out a few years ago, I'll try doing that. If not, maybe I'll try to pull up the old game, but yeah, you get what I'm saying. It was just the place where I first learned to do stuff like that, where other people used other games. Now, I used the same kind of mindset throughout the years in game after game, and lo and behold, I thought it would work in Overwatch too. Overwatch as well. To get to a lot of these spots, I'd have to rely on teammates, like somebody playing as Mai, Symmetra, etc. But we'd do it. We'd get it done. I'm really thankful I had people that were willing to indulge me in this, and I'm thankful I still have several of those people in my life. While searching throughout the fairly new at the time Blizzard World map, I gazed upon the archways on Point B, and I felt that something was there. Something beautiful. You see, there was this spot there on that archway that looked like if I was able to get up to it, I'd be able to place turret right in the armpit of the archway. And when I tried, I wasn't able to do anything. Turns out there was an invisible wall there. If you're familiar with what invisible walls are in games in general, basically it's a spot where it's purposely blocked off for one reason or another, usually to keep players from accessing a spot or going out of bounds of a map, etc. And in this case, it was there, I'm guessing, mostly just for keeping people from being up in that spot in general. But I got the feeling if I really put my mind to it, I swear I could place it there, if I used a bunch of my old tricks from growing up. I felt that there had to be a way to put Turret in that little armpit spot. If I was right, and I was able to put it just where I was thinking, then it would be piggy-holed in a spot that would have a lot of natural cover, have a lot of line of sight, and be in an odd off angle. And if we needed to, Orisa could throw a shield up there. Whether said shield was up by the turret itself, or down with us on the catwalk high ground. Like I said before, we would use May walls frequently to test if a spot could work. This time, I just had a gut feeling I would need the Frozen Queen to help me rush up to where I needed to be. But it wasn't working. Despite getting the general height I needed to reach the top, there wasn't a single spot to place it. It was devastating. After all that trying with no success, my buddies were getting a little tired of it too, since they were only still helping me with my machinations out of respect for our friendship. But with that said, I knew there had to be a way to place Turret Daughter there. So, because I couldn't seem to reach a spot even with my wall, I decided to employ my all-reliable run up a hill and jump. Or in this case, run up a slanted side of the entryway. I was getting momentum and saw that I was close, truly close. Maybe, if I combined this jump with my wall, I just might be able to break the spot. So we tested, despite the decrying of my team brothers to give it a rest. Then, finally, I saw something that sparked my soul with newfound hope. A blue placement outline. It was only a fraction of a second, but I saw it. It was possible. The position was the virgin ground of something wonderful, a placement that none had seen or even conceived of before. So we kept at it. We worked on our timing over and over, flashes of Blue Daughter appearing like a magnificent specter, speaking quietly to me in the chill of the night that it was possible. It could be done, and we just had to keep trying. And then there was a breakthrough. It happened. Finally! It happened. Turret Daughter was placed, and on a spot that was fresh, powerful, and delightfully unique. We did it. And what's more, this bounty was more generous than any of us could have expected. It was behind that invisible wall. If it was behind such a wall, would it even be able to shoot an enemy? If it tried to, would it just land on the infinity between Turret and the world? Despite these worries, before we could test its ability to attack, I needed to make sure that I could get it upgraded to the point where it would be at level 2, and by extension, where I could use my ult to bring it to level 3. Thankfully, it didn't take long, and through utilizing the jump and Maywall gymnastics, I was able to upgrade my beautiful progeny to level 2. So, now we needed to see if it could actually be useful at all, or if it would just be a stationary piece of exquisite art, a visage merely meant to be seen as a testament to what could be, even if it may not be useful in practice. We changed one of our players to Red Team, had them walk down the lonely path of the payload to see if any shots were fired, and what's more, if they would pass the crystal barrier that stood between Daughter and her mark. Step by anxious step, further and further, then down the corner, and she fired. Not only did Turret Daughter fire, but her hits were landing. It was a success. But what made this a true bounty of the finest order? When the enemy side tried to attack it, they couldn't even land a single hit against her. The invisible wall cradled Daughter like a shield of true Aegis, stronger than any defense we could muster with our own abilities. It was splendid, beautiful, genuine, and perfect. We tried Widow, we tried Pharah, we tried everyone, but no one was able to fully damage Turret in a time that would be short enough to not be focused and killed by our team. Now, if memory does serve, on the most auspicious of occasions, the Pharah rockets occasionally did minor splash damage, but not enough to be of use, and her ult was completely impotent against the unseen wall. I had found what truly was the greatest Torb Turret spot that ever could be.
It was a turret spot that couldn't die and would always be hitting the enemy.
My brothers and I made an unknown history, one that we wish to share with the world one day.
Surely it doesn't need much explaining to those who are familiar with the game and games like it. But for those that might not understand just how powerful this position was, let me quickly explain it. The spot had line of sight for nearly 80% of where the attacking team would be pushing the payload on that point, meaning they would nearly always be getting shot. They would need to not only focus on defending themselves from us, they would also need to defend themselves from all of the constant off-angle damage that Turret would throw at them. When I would ult, it would boost the turret to level 3, increasing the damage load significantly. There was no real way for them to combat it effectively. Sure, if they found just the right spot, they could do minor splash damage with Pharah, but doing so would take so much focus for her that our defending team could just delete her when she tried her best to take down Daughter. Otherwise, it was completely undefeatable. All of this in combination made it a spot that was excessively powerful, perfectly defended, and with a long line of sight throughout the whole point. It was genuinely the greatest spot a Torb player, who should only be me by the way, could ask for. We knew one thing beyond all else. This could never be used in a real game of competitive. It would be wrong. It was a power far too great to be used in truth. We had some discussion back and forth with ourselves about whether or not it would even be legal in-game.
Well, surely if it's a feature in the game, we can use it, right?
I shook my head here in this, however. I knew the truth. Such an exploit was unusable and distinctly unfair in such a competitive game, despite how desperately I wished to unveil such power. So, we sat on it, waiting and waiting, until there was news that sunk my heart to its molten core. Torb was going to be completely reworked. No more placements, no more armor, no more Blizzard World spot. It was certainly going to be gone. While I overall welcomed the changes to the character, the grim reality was that spots such as this one were going to be nothing more than fossils of a bygone time, discarded and eventually forgotten by those who didn't even know of their existence in the first place. So, we needed to do something. A swan song of an era that would never be again. We would use it once in an actual game of quick play. Obviously not in competitive though. For I held then, and I still hold, that it would have been wrong to have been used in an actual game with real stakes on the line. But a quick play?
where we mentioned we were doing something? Making a swan song? Sure.
Sure.
This would be the last time we could ever do it. And I would be willing to destroy it in the game when the time was right or they asked. It wasn't about winning or losing the match. It was about showcasing something. That I had found the greatest turret spot in history, and there would never be a spot like it again. So, we bided our time, waiting until we could finally implement the plan. The issue was, nearly every game we played was somewhere else. Kings Row, Gibraltar, Volskaya, again and again. Then, our hearts raced as we landed on the map on attack. Damn it all! We needed to be on defense to get this to work properly. So we tried again and again and again until only one day was left before the rework. We had to get Blizzard World on defense. We prayed, we lifted our hearts for hope, and we got it. Blizzard World defense. This was our moment to show the world what we had discovered. Now, I apologize for the audio coming from my microphone being really glitchy. There was some kind of error in my audio interface at the time, and I didn't realize it before it was too late. But on to the footage. We shirked point 1 completely. It was irrelevant to our plans. We'd defend it, certainly, but our hearts just weren't in it. Point 2. That's where it mattered.
This is all we've been waiting for. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, we gotta get you up here again, quick. I can't wait for the reactions. We have to get them over here.
When the enemy team finally came around the corner, they were met with a piece of art painted not by a Picasso or a Rembrandt, but by us, by Rubiria.
By me.
And they hated it. Well, one player in specific hated it. Enemy Sim. Oh, come on, Enemy Sim. I just wanted to show you this piece of art. Look, I found the greatest turret spot ever. What do you think?
You did what?
Statistically, it's very likely that 1 or 2 other people have seen it.
You'd think. Look at Symmetra. Trying so hard to shoot it.
This is our turret.
You're cheating, Ryan. Cheaters.
We're gonna get reported, Kay.
And you know, I don't blame them for hating it. Not at all. It was unfair. It was frustrating. It was brilliant. Everyone else could see the beauty in what I was doing, but Enemy Sim couldn't let this slight stand. I agreed to destroy it, but no. I'd be reported anyway. You know what? That's their prerogative. Do I think that was silly? Sure. My team certainly did. But as I said, the point was never to actually win the match. It was to archive history. And we did just that. It was a moment in time, golden and lush, that would live on forever in our hearts and minds, never truly forgotten. I've meant to make this video again and again over the years, but one thing or another always seemed to take up my attention in real life. At the time, I was going through one of the roughest seasons of my life. And what's more, soon after that season, it was only going to get worse from there, with life events and newfound chronic issues that would completely turn my life upside down. But that's a different story for another time. This is a story about my love for this game, my love for the character, my love for Turret Daughter, and my love for finding stuff like this with my friends.
Let it be known
that it's the greatest turret spot in the game.
We were the only ones to discover it this entire time.
In the time since this moment, I've only grown to love the character more and more. While I do miss things about old Torb, like genuine level 3, placement of turrets, and throwing armor to function as what I would call an off support, I think the changes made were overall positive for the character, who only the K-Man and me, his avatar, should ever play, you false prophet That said, I despise the Vaseline effect, which, like I said earlier, is when you throw a turret on a spot that seems like it should work physically, and it slips off and slides from its vantage point to an impotent location on the ground. As I said before, thankfully, when perks came along, we were able to choose one that gave us the option to attach turret to walls and ceilings. It was one of the most beautiful updates they've ever made in the game. And its opposing perk option, the ability for a pseudo level 3, is another brilliant addition. That said, if I could have an aside for a brief moment in my already overly verbose video, I would offer an opinion for the character's first set of perks in the game. Currently, the options for perk 1 are between being able to run faster when hammer is equipped, greatly increasing torbjorn's mobility, or automatically using overload during ultimate. Something that I could do with, I don't know, click of the button combined with my ultimate. You know, something I can already do in the game.
To be fair, though, I can definitely see it being useful in a number of different situations. Like if you really feel like you might need to have an extra overload just for, you know, getting through an ult. But in the way I play, it just doesn't seem to really be all that useful for me. I'd rather have the mobility any day. As it stands currently, for the way I play, you know, the only person that should play Torb, I don't see any reason why I'd ever pick the extra overload over the mobility of hammer. Hammer speed is just too reliable in most cases.
If I were to have a choice, I would change that right side perk to where you can get rid of your ability to do overload, and instead, once again, have the ability to throw out armor packs or some similar overhealth option to provide utility for the team. Sure, overload is core to Torb's current kit, but there are times where maintaining the team's sustain takes priority, and often I use overload as just another speed boost on top of hammer. Just like with perk 2, where I would pick anchor bolts 80% of the time, for that other 20%, it would be exceedingly helpful to have the option to throw out armor.
Now I understand you have some questions.
Torb should be played by everyone, right? He's a character for the people, isn't he?
No, that is not true.
shouldn't you be using this video as a call to arms for other Torb players? I mean, there's other good Torb players, right? Shouldn't everybody play Torb?
Nope. Just me, baby. Just me.
That's the fact, Jack! That's the fact, Jack!
I hope you all have enjoyed this look at a special memory for my friends and I.
I know it was pretty silly. I can be pretty cringe.
Kinda cringe.
And I can be pretty verbose and hyperbolic, but it's a story I've wanted to tell for a long time, and I'm hoping that at least a few people out there might enjoy it. It was a labor of love then, and it still is now. I don't know if I'll make any more Overwatch videos in this vein. I don't have any stories that are really crazy or as interesting as this one when it comes to the game, but I do plan to put out footage of the gang and I still playing, trying to climb, trying new shit, whatever. The act of telling stories and writing has been a lifelong passion of mine. And so is music, singing, guitar playing, etc. If it's not painfully obvious with my Orisa parody song back there. Just like with writing and all the other creative endeavors that I partake in, it's something I'm passionate about. There's actually a number of stories I can't wait to share with you guys. Events from my life, etc. Aside from content that I'd like to post on this channel, I'm also working on a number of different manuscripts for stories of mine. I plan to not only self-publish them, but put them up here on YouTube as audiobooks when I'm done. Like I said, writing and storytelling, it's just been a lifelong passion for me, and I look forward to sharing these passions and wins with all of you.
If you'd like to support me, liking and sharing the video would be greatly appreciated. What's more, I do have a Buy Me a Coffee account, which is linked in the description. It's admittedly fairly bare bones as of right now, but I plan to expand it further as things go on. If you have any questions about the video, my thoughts on the game,
or if you want to tell me just how stupid I am and how much of a waste of time this whole video was for you,
or whatever else, please comment it down below. I look forward to engaging a dialogue with you. Sincerely. Indeed. I have several other ideas in mind for this channel, and I hope you'll join me along for the ride. I appreciate your time more than I could ever fully express, and thank you for your watch. And for fuck's sake, never fucking pick Torb, you stupid fucking false prophet scum!
I'm recording it. I'm gonna start dancing. Oh no! I'm about to be removed!
I wonder if they'll ever find us.
I'm gonna be removed!
Caleb.
I was about to be removed!
We are...
You did what?